Imagine losing your dad, cherishing the only thing left of him, and then catching someone you trusted opening his urn. That's not just disrespect. That's crossing a sacred line. And when it happened to me, I realized if they could stoop that low, I could serve them a taste of petty revenge they'd never forget. If you've ever had someone trample over your boundaries, or thought about the revenge you wish you could pull off, hit that like button, subscribe, and settle in, because today, you're about to hear one of the most jaw-dropping family revenge stories ever. I never imagined that the people who would cause me the deepest pain weren't strangers, weren't enemies, but family. Well, technically my husband's family. They weren't just family. Either they were also our landlords. That already made things complicated. Every month, the rent money flowed back into their pockets, and every week, they treated our home less like ours and more like theirs. At first, I told myself, maybe this is just how they are. Maybe they're nosy. Maybe they just don't respect boundaries. But it became clear this was more than harmless meddling. They came into our house whenever they pleased. No knocking, no permission. Sometimes I'd come home with my son and notice things had been moved around. Once, I found laundry I hadn't washed folded and placed in a pile. It wasn't kindness. It was control. And then came the threats. They didn't like me. They didn't like my marriage to their son. And one night, during a heated argument, they flat out said, "If you don't straighten up, we'll kick you out." Except they couldn't. Legally, I knew that. But when it's family, and when they're the landlords, the threat hangs heavy. It eats at you. You wonder, what if they find a way? 2, the violation. But nothing prepared me for the day I discovered how far they were willing to go. My father had passed away not long ago. Losing him was like losing my anchor, my safe place in the world. The only piece of him I still had was his urn, sitting on a shelf in my living room. One afternoon, I came home and something felt wrong. A quiet, suffocating wrong. I looked toward the shelf, and my stomach dropped. The urn had been moved. Not just dusted, not just nudged. Opened. I stood frozen, my chest tight, every muscle trembling. Who does that? Who opens a dead man's urn? It felt like my father had been violated, like his memory had been trampled on. The thought of those hands, my husband's family's hands, sifting through my father's ashes made by a rise in my throat. I remember whispering out loud, "Dad, I'm so sorry. I couldn't protect you." That was my breaking point. Up until then, I'd tried to be civil. I tried to keep peace for my husband's sake, for my son's sake. But in that moment, I realized something important. Some people don't deserve maturity. Some people only understand consequences. And while, yes, I could take the legal route, and I still plan to eventually, I wanted something more. Something immediate. Something petty. A way to let them feel a taste of what they'd done. Now, before I go on, let me be clear. I wasn't going to do anything illegal. Nothing that could actually get us evicted. But there are ways, small, clever, irritating ways, to make people think twice before crossing your boundaries again. And that's when it hit me. If they wanted to treat my house like theirs, then I'd make sure every moment inside it made them uncomfortable. I started small, rearranging everything. Whenever they came in and moved my stuff, I'd move it right back, but with a twist. I swapped out spices in jars. Sugar became salt. Flour became powdered sugar. Every helpful little thing they did turned into a mistake. I set up motion-activated devices in odd corners of the house. Sometimes it was a faint, eerie laugh. Sometimes a whisper. They never admitted it, but I know they heard it, because I'd find them glancing over their shoulders like something unseen was watching them. I placed my father's old wristwatch, something they had no idea about, on the shelf near the urn. Every few days, I'd set the alarm to go off at random hours. Imagine walking into a house uninvited and suddenly hearing a watch beep over and over from the shelf of the man whose ashes you'd disturbed. Creepy? Oh, absolutely. Petty move number 4. The note. This one was my favorite. I wrote a simple note and tucked inside the drawer they always snooped through. Some things are meant to stay closed. No signature, just the words. At first, they tried to pretend nothing was happening, but I could see it. paranoia creeping into their expressions. One day, my mother-in-law asked casually, "Have you ever had, strange things happen in the house? Like noises?" I just tilted my head, smiled, and said, "Well, sometimes I feel like my dad is still here, watching over me." The look on her face? Priceless. From then on, their visits became less frequent, shorter, hesitant. They still barged in, sure, but I could feel the tension. They weren't comfortable anymore. My house didn't feel like theirs. It felt like mine again. And here's the best part. One night, I overheard them whispering outside about bad energy in the house. They wondered if maybe they should keep their distance so they wouldn't bring it back to their own home. I wanted to laugh. These people who had disrespected me, my marriage, my privacy, and even my father's memory, were now scared of exactly what they'd stirred up. It wasn't legal justice. Not yet, but it was poetic, and it was sweet. Looking back, I know petty revenge isn't the ultimate solution. But sometimes it's the bandage you need while you build up to the real battle. And as for me, my fight isn't over. But at least now, every time they step foot in my house, they're reminded, you don't mess with the living, and you sure as hell don't mess with the dead. If this story gave you chills, smash that like button and subscribe for more. And I want to know, what's the pettiest revenge you've ever pulled off? Drop it in the comments. I might feature your story next time.